Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today, I originally was going to do a Secret of the Mimic kind of prediction slash theory video where I was going to talk about how the Storyteller from Tales of the Pizzaplex is like the thing that's going to solve Secret of the Mimic. Actually, the Mimic story isn't what's going to solve it, it's the Storyteller. And I was going to do that, it was going to be a full scripted video, everything like that. But what happened actually is, and if you can't tell, this is an unscripted video, which is why I'm going and I'll cut out some of that stuff, but especially those long pauses. Basically what happened was I actually reread the Storyteller. I have read it before Ruin came out, actually. When the Mimic was starting to become like kind of a popular thing, and like it was like, ooh, and MatPat was starting to talk about it and stuff like that. And we all get all most important lore from Matthew Patrick, of course. Basically, so I reread it a couple days ago and took notes, and I was, for this video that I was gonna do, and I was reading it, and the whole video was gonna be about how like, oh, actually, so the storyteller is trying to tell us, or retroactively, we can see in the storyteller that basically Edwin was going to be the protagonist of the game, and a lot of this was going to explain why he's so afraid of the Mimic One program and all that jazz and stuff. I'm not the only one who's come to this conclusion. I think Mamakato, another fellow theorist, has also kind of come to this. I think I kind of got inspired to make this video by her video, which was like David is possessing the Mimic, which I said in my last video too, so that's crazy. That was totally unrelated to her video. I had no idea, so that felt good. I felt like I was on the right track on that one. But basically, I came to realize though, while reading the book, was I actually don't think it tells us much, really. A lot of the clues that people were basically the big evidence of the storyteller that like, oh, Edwin experienced something that we didn't see in the Mimic's short story, is that he says, he has a line where he goes, "It's happening again," or something like that. It's happened, I think it's happening again, when he sees that the Mimic One is running the Pizzaplex. And so the theory is like, oh, that means Edwin must have seen the Mimic One programming this with technology before. I do think this is still going to happen. I just don't think it has much to do with the gameplay of Secret of the Mimic, more of the backstory of Secret of the Mimic, and I'll talk about that later because I think we need to get into a frank and honest discussion about Tales games, and is Tales games canon and what's going on and all that. But like, to get a little more structured on this, I'm not being super structured on this, but you know, um basically that was the theory, and so I decided after that, I decided, fuck it, I'll just do a like off script. I'm just gonna talk about stuff that is technically related to Secret of the Mimic and Tales, and slap on a clickbait title that this is a prediction video, even though I'm barely gonna talk about Secret of the Mimic itself. So yeah, this is just kind of I'm gonna talk about the Steel Wool era of FNAF, kind of mostly Security Breach and after on Tails a little bit. Yeah, and since the last time I made a video, we've gotten a lot of stuff with like the marketing for Secret of the Mimic has actually started. We got an interview with Steel Wool Studios from Daco, which is a really good one. I know some people were disappointed in it. They're stupid because obviously they weren't going to tell us lore in that interview, but it made the gameplay very exciting sounding, and we got some interesting stuff in that. Like I think it's kind of interesting how Daco keeps calling the facility that we are seeing in the gameplay trailers and stuff. He keeps calling it Edwin's factory, but Evan, who is the I think the director of the game, the head director or something. I might be misremembering that, but he's like the head. He's one of the heads of the games and stuff. I think he's like the lead director. He never calls it a factory in that entire interview, and he always kind of looks a little uncomfortable when Daco calls it a factory. So I don't think this is Edwin's factory. I think this is a warehouse. This is Edwin's warehouse, if you will. I think that's kind of. I think this is a good place to. I'm so sorry. This is such a rambly video. This is just me rambling off the top of my head. So there's no structure here. I think it's a good time to talk about Tales games. So I have gone back and forth on Tales games, and I think I'm a good authority to talk about it because I have no allegiances to it. I have been on both sides of the argument. So you can't say, "Oh, I'm just coping." Because I from Ruin onwards, I've been a pretty strong Tales game defender. I don't know if I don't think Tales games is canon anymore. This could change, like like that. I don't know if that snap came off. But this could totally change at any point. But basically what I'm saying here is that I just don't think Tails can be canon anymore with this game. I just don't think there's so many differences, and what really confirmed it to me was the Stay Up Latte little teaser we got I think last Friday or Saturday. Which if you don't know, basically it's just a little advertisement. It's an in-universe commercial for something called a Mori latte or something like that. A Stay Up Latte, I think is actually what it's called, but it's made by Mori. And basically the implication is that the Mimic One programming is in it. That might not be the case. I've heard some other suggestions that maybe this was an old commercial that Edwin and Fiona, his dead wife, made before her passing, when Edwin still had his company, and that the mimic is infecting the commercial and trying to ruin it. And what he's saying is not about what he's saying when the coffee machine says, "I know what you want more than you," and yada yada, and he talks about how like he is always watching and all that. That might be more towards Edwin or whoever, and that is less. That's not diegetically in the commercial, and I think that's a good. I think that's a fine theory. It makes more sense in the Tails game's logic, but I think what we're presented now is that at some point Edwin built his company back up and used the Mimic One to do that, which is implied in the books, which is implied in one thought, like thought bubble. I don't know what you call that. Um, one thought Edwin had in the book, in the Mimic short story. He does say like, "Oh, I could maybe get my company back if I use this Mimic One and all that." But here's my problem with that. That's kind of what the Tails game was. I was thinking right now is that Edwin comes back, or he doesn't leave yet, and basically what he does is instead, because give a little recap. In the Mimic short story, Edwin makes the Mimic. It was difficult to put the pieces together. He makes it for David, his son, to basically preoccupy with him. But he's so impressed with the programming that he made that he's like, "Ooh, this could be used for stuff like the shit that I used to make when I owned my company." Because Edwin does not own his company, which is also a difference between what we hear in the game and what we know in Tales. In Tales, Edwin's company fails and Fazbear buys it up, and so he is just a Fazbear employee. Well, in the game, it's stated in the trailer that he is a contractor for Freddy's. So basically, you have to either go, it's a different continuity, or Edwin bought back his company from Fazbear, started using the Mimic One programming like he thought he might do. Fazbear just is like, "Cool, I guess we'll make you a contractor." It's just a lot of loops, right? It's a lot of hoops you have to jump, not loops. It's a lot of hoops you have to jump to get to that point, which is kind of annoying. I don't think if your theory is that good, you should be making that many jumps. If you're gonna make a FNAF theory, you always have to kind of there's always like one piece of evidence or one certain counterpoint you kind of just have to ignore, because there's always going to be something to trip you up when you're making a theory. Like there's just every theory has that. Like you have to there's always going to be pieces of evidence you have to ignore to make a theory work, kind of, which is annoying, but that's the franchise we are talking about. But yeah, so basically that's kind of what the Tales games are thinking. But I think there's one major problem with this ideal, and that is David dies, right? Everyone's heard Jackie's box. He got hit by a car. David is dead, and the Edwin beats the mimic to a pulp, and that's the last time we ever hear from him until the Storyteller, which is decades later. So basically, my problem was this idea that Edwin didn't leave so soon and used the Mimic One and got his company back and all that jazz. Besides the fact that it is a bit of a you have to make leaps, and maybe the game will make it so you don't have to make as much leap in logic to get there. It is still a messy narrative no matter what. But again, messy narratives and FNAF are like peanut butter and jelly. It happens all the time. Like it's a staple of the franchise is messy narrative. But basically, my problem with that is that I just don't believe Edwin would ever use the mimic again. Even the programming. I just don't ever see, I think he relates the programming and the mimic itself as an entity, the robot, the endoskeleton and the programming, as he relates that too heavily to David. I just don't think he would ever use it again. It just seems very out of character for Edwin. And we barely know the character, so maybe that's a too big of a word to say. Maybe I'm making judgment call too heavily here. But we do get to know Edwin a good bit. I mean, we get 2 stories with him, which is more than a lot of other Taylor stories, and Fright stories. I just don't feel like from what I read of the Mimic and the Storyteller that Edwin would ever use the Mimic One program again. Um, after David's death, I just don't think. I think he would just fuck off, which is kind of what we're getting in this game. Which makes me think that Edwin in the games had a much more successful time. Like, yes, his wife still died. I don't know if we'll even touch on that in the game at all. But he doesn't really include mother characters very much. They either die off screen, just aren't mentioned much. And I could see Fiona getting the same treatment here. But I think I just I think maybe what could happen is that in the game timeline, everything from the book still happens kind of, except Edwin's company is successful and he never lost it, let's say that. So he never lost it, but when he made the mimic, it was um it was a bit easier to run the company and it got bigger, let's say. So maybe I'm thinking that maybe a lot of the events of the mimic short story is condensed, and what we're gonna get in the games is a longer, kind of more expanded version of that, which is um Edwin, has his company, has David and stuff. He's doing all the stuff. He still has the company. He hasn't lost it. He's working for Fazbear, but he hasn't lost the company. So he's doing a little bit more of what he wants to do and stuff. He's still making robots and stuff though, which is interesting. He's still making it's a little complicated so far in the game. Obviously, I think the game itself will make this a little more understandable. Is Edwin in this making the suits, like the mascot suits, or is he making the robotic parts? Because in the story, in the short story, The Mimic, he makes the robot parts. He's turning mascot costumes into robots, and there's some evidence of that in the game. I think we got a screenshot of one of the elephants being made, and he's got robotic parts. And we just got at the last Mimic Monday, we just got a Dolly postal, and she's taking care of another elephant, and that one also has robotic parts. So maybe it's just the elephant has robotic parts, but I don't know. It's interesting. And there also is I'm watching the trailer to keep myself stimulated, kind of, so I don't just stay off into space. And I just saw Dolly again, and that kind of reminded me also, like, oh yeah, there's also animatronics here. So, like, what's going on with that? I don't think Edwin's making those animatronics. I don't think he made Music Man, Dolly, or Jackie. My conspiracy is that William made at least Jackie and Dolly because they look like the Funtime kind of structure. With the plasticky faceplate that has like the seam down the middle or the like little line. And yeah. It's interesting, this video is so crazy. It's just a stream of thought. You're just getting my stream of thoughts. This is like if you talk to me in person. I'm just going off. Um, so I don't know if this is an entertaining video or not, but we'll find out. It's probably hard to keep up with. So I apologize for that. I may or may not have some ADHD in there. um, but yeah, again, I don't have any notes. I don't have any notes really. I have like small notes here, but I don't have like anything. It's not structured. There's no like talk about this, this, and this. If I ever do one of these again, I might do that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of interesting stuff with Secret of the Mimic and the Mimic, like, I guess you call it the Mimic trilogy of the Mimic short story, Secret of the Mimic, and the Storyteller. If you count, I don't know. Again, that sounds like I'm saying it's Tales games. I'm not totally sure about that anymore. Again, I feel like Edwin has his company. He doesn't lose it. And also, again, the original video was like basically saying Edwin's gonna be the protagonist. I am kind of leaning against that now. Obviously, the counter evidence that I would have brought up in the video is that, like, hey, the first line of the trailer says Edwin's missing. Why would they be saying that to Edwin? And I think that's just clever trailer editing. I think that message we hear at the beginning of the trailer, the from Ron, aka Hand Unit, is maybe on one of the bodies we find, because we're gonna find bodies, and we think that's probably the team that tried to distract the mimic before us. I'm less convinced on that's actually what it is now. I do wonder if it maybe is just Mori employees or something. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things in this game. This game is very weird. Um, I feel like this is the FNAF game they've showed the least of, especially now that we have the interview, and Evan has said that this game is going to be like 18 to 20 hours long if you do a completionist run, which is like you do everything, you look at all the little corners and stuff. I feel like again we have very little. I mean, I noticed this in the trailer too, when it first came out, and it made me a little nervous. What they've shown us of this game so far is pretty much just the PAX stuff that was during the last PAX, where Secret of the Mimic was first playable for a certain amount of people in VR. That's kind of all they've been showing us. I think I want to say underscore did either a video or made a tweet about this, but he was looking at the trailer and basically saying like, "Oh, this is from the demo. This is from the demo. This is from the demo." So a lot of the stuff we're seeing in the game is from the demo. Not all of it. I don't think the mushroom stuff is in the demo. I don't think this shot. I said this shot like you can see it. Well, actually, you probably can because I'm probably playing the trailer. But that shot of the like weird like engine type thing. I don't know what you call it. I don't think it's in the demo. Music Man's obviously not in the demo. Dolly's not in the demo. They're showing us. They are showing us stuff from like later in the game and stuff. But I don't know. It's odd. It's weird. But yeah, so that's kind of my like how I'm feeling about Tales games and stuff right now. I'm not super into it. I do have two other points I want to make before we go, and these all related to the storyteller more than Secret of the Mimic. But I think it's downright weird, and maybe this is like my FNAF brain playing tricks on me. It's downright bizarre that the inside of the storyteller tree at the end of the storyteller is, I don't know how to explain this. It's weird. The inside of the storyteller, if you don't know, at the end of the storyteller is this big bobat tree, and inside is the machinery, the storyteller, and it's this machine that has a white tiger head. It's Tiger Rock. Its head basically, and at the end, Edwin gets locked in there, and then when Mr. Burrows, the bad guy of the story, evil CEO type man, he's not actually the CEO, but he's like the head of the board, goes in there after locking Edwin in there for days. Edwin's dead, and he's been throughout the story, I guess throughout the nights or whatever. How I don't remember how long he was in there. He had been basically writing on like multicolored cardboard, sticky notes and stuff like that. I don't think it was cardboard. I think it's just sticky notes. Basically going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, yada yada, and drawing weird symbols and all that. And he suffocated. And if that sounds familiar to you, well, look at this picture right here that I'll edit in. Basically, this is the silo from Security Breach, where Gregbot was born. The theory Gregbot, not really Gregbot, because that's not true. But like this silo where like MatPat thought that some robot was coming into human consciousness. You know, this silo, it's weird. It's one of the weirdest spots in the game. It's underground. It's just weird. Like in a previous video, I was like, oh, this might be Edwin's factory or something. This was obviously way before Secret of the Mimic came out and made the factory way bigger than it was in the main story. In the original Mimic story, the factory is quite small. It's only a couple of stories. Even then, the silo room in Security Breach is not that big. It really couldn't be. I don't know why I said that. It was just kind of like I'm throwing ideas at the wall. Basically, yeah, I think it's so weird how the silo in Security Breach and the inside of the storyteller at the end of the short story, how similar it is. Like, why would Scott, I assume Scott put this in because it's the end of the story. So I assume he told the writer to, hey, put this in. I just think it's so weird that Scott was like, hey, put this in, put the sticky notes and stuff, because it does mirror the silo, and I feel like it's trying to tell us that, but I don't know why. Like, is the silo supposed to be the storyteller? That doesn't make any fucking sense. But I do wonder if that's something that Seal was screwed up, because obviously, if you don't know, in Scott's last interview in last August, he did an interview with Daco again, and basically what happened is that Scott didn't tell Steelwool the story for Security Breach. And what happened was basically Steelwool was like, oh, we have all these gaps, we have to fill them. And so they filled them in with stuff that Scott did not want to be in the game, like Bone Trap. Bone Trap was in Scott's version of the game, to our knowledge, but he was supposed to be like a movie prop almost, where he's just kind of sitting in the corner and you can barely see him sometimes and all that jazz. Not the final boss of the game, who's definitely supposed to be William Afton. And I think Steelwood's biggest problem is, what you can take from the interview, is that Steelwood thought that Afton was back. I think they saw Help Wanted and thought Afton was back, and so that's what they did. They thought Glitchtrap's Afton, Bone Trap's Afton, boom, bada boom. The mimic was not set up well and Help Wanted very much. There's some clues there, and I don't think the mimic's a retcon. You know, bada bing, bada boom. We get into this new game, but with all that in mind, I think the silo room is very interesting because it's like I do wonder if maybe that was supposed to be the remains of the storyteller or something, and it was supposed to be maybe different from the books because maybe it is parallels, or it's just different. It's an adaptation, we'll call it, because I know everyone hates parallels, and I find parallels frustrating how it's used in the community sometimes. Um, so let's go with the term adaptation. That's been floating around now that we're getting a Tales adaptation. Because I mean, we are using Mimic, Edwin, and probably David. I'd be shocked if David is not mentioned in Secret of the Mimic once. So I think maybe this was supposed to be like the game's version of the Storyteller, and Edwin died down heel in the Steel Wars. But um, if that was the case, I don't think Stillwell understood that, and I think maybe that's why it looks weird and it's odd, and there's an Afton family staff bot situation going on down there and stuff. Also the Nightmariones are down there. I don't know. I don't know. I think the Nightmariones all part of the story because they keep showing up. Like Nightmare staff bots are in Help Wanted 2. The Nightmarione plushie is in Help Wanted. It's in Ruin, and it's in Help Wanted 2. So, did I say Help Wanted 1? If I did, I meant Security Breach. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if those were if that was a Steel edition or Scott edition. I don't know. I don't know. Because maybe it was Steelwool adding some funky shit, and Scott just went with it because he didn't want to. He doesn't like retconning, right? He doesn't like retconning. He has stated that before. So yeah. The last thing I want to talk about, because we're kind of running, I'm kind of running out of time here, and I want to keep this video around the 30-minute mark. Around 30-minute mark. I want to talk about the Storyteller virus and the Glitchtrap virus, or I guess I should call it the Mimic One virus. So I do believe that Glitchtrap is the Mimic One virus. I don't believe in Afton or any of that. I don't think Glitchtrap is Afton. I think Afton is still an Ultimate Custom Knight. Um, so I just want to make that clear. But what I am saying is that I do think that the Mimic One, and I might have like a chart to show you what I mean here. Um, in the video. If I don't, try to visualize it. So basically, I think how the totem pole works, and I got this from Tales and the games and some of the stuff, and I think Squawks made a video about this. I really like Squawks' interpretation of FNAF in general a lot of the times. So if you notice, a lot of my ideas are similar to his, or if not the same. Because I just think he has a really good sense of the games. But um basically what I think is going on with the Mimic One and Glitchtrap is that it all starts in the Mimic One, right? That is the main thing. That is what Edwin created back in '79. That's what we're going to be facing in Secret of the Mimic. After that, though, when we get into the more modern era and the Mimic One virus returns, I mean, it might be in the Scott version of the games too, like in like Sister Location or something. We'll find out. Hopefully, in Secret of the Mimic, we'll probably get some implications of that if that is true. I don't know. I just don't. I mean, maybe. Let's just assume no for the sake of this video, for this talking point. Let's assume no. Let's assume that how it's going is that the Mimic One starts in '79 and then eventually ends up in the Pizzaplex era after the FNAF 6 file. I think the Mimic is down in the basement after the FNAF 6 file. Maybe it was brought in when the Pizzaplex was getting built, like in Tales. I think that's all fine. But I think when Fazbear Entertainment and Mr. Burroughs puts in the Mimic 1 in the Storyteller, I do not think that is a parallel or the Glitchtrap virus. It shouldn't be, because Vanessa is not in Tales of the Pizzaplex at all, which to me implies that she is still in the rental service AR stuff. at this point. She has not been transferred over to the Pizzaplex by the time of Tales. Now, that might have some contradictions in timeline placements. Some of the timeline of Tales is very weird, like how the Storyteller seems to be implied to be kind of early on in the Pizzaplex's lifetime, but Bonnie is dead already. And then VIP also adds some complications to that. Let's just not go into it. Let's just not go into it. It's a big can of worms. But I think when the Storyteller is added, all the animatronics are infected with the Mimic 1 programming, not Glitchtrap, just the Mimic 1. And that's why in the Storyteller, we see the animatronic, their personalities become bigger, but they don't become uncanny or creepy like is described in the therapy tapes in Security Breach. They just are heightened. Chica is more of a glutton. Um, she's eating garbage out of the trash cans and stuff, like we see in Security Breach. Freddy is more childish and kind of bratty. Monty is angrier. Roxy is meaner, which we all see in Security Breach, sure, but they're not killing people. In the story, Freddy fights with a little girl over a toy. Um, but he but he eventually gives up and kind of sulks and is sad. He doesn't eat her or anything like that. Like he doesn't do anything like that. And to me, that is what the Mimic One program does. It's kind of mimicking David still. So it's giving them childlike attributes and all that. I don't think it's malicious. Now you could argue maybe it is a little bit at the end of the story. Because it seemingly no, I was gonna say it seemingly implies that it locks Mr. Burrows in and kills him, but it doesn't. Mr. Burrows does that to himself by accident because of him fucking around with the tree and stuff to keep Edwin in there. So actually, the storyteller never does anything malicious. So I think that's what that is. But concurrently, or actually beforehand, okay, let's take a break. Let's take a minute. So what I'm saying right now is that over here in the Pizzaplex is the Storyteller virus slash the Mimic 1 virus. And that is making them more childish, is acting more like David, kind of maybe, or just childish. We'll just say childish. That is basically what it's doing there. And that is kind of why the animatronics act kind of funny and kind of weird. But over in the VR land, in Help Wanted, we have the Glitchtrap virus. Now, what is the Glitchtrap virus? The Glitchtrap virus is, I think, them accidentally using the Mimic 1 for the first time to just speed up development. I think Tape Go is on the money in those tapes. I think I don't think there's even any malicious plans. There was some weird stuff implied in those tapes, but I don't have them in front of me, so we're just going to pretend that we're not going to talk about that now. All we're going to talk about is the fact that the Mimic 1 is also placed into Help Wanted, and that is where the Glitchtrap virus was born, via seeing all the agony and stuff, and basically the program is like, okay, I've been told to create more Five Nights at Freddy's for this VR game so that I can make levels and all that. So I'm going to do that, and to do that, I need to be the thing that causes all the agony and tragedy and yada yada. And so that's why he becomes William Afton. How do you make more FNAF? You use William Afton. So that's why he becomes Glitchtrap. And so Glitchtrap basically becomes the problem of Help Wanted. And as the Mimic 1 becomes more Afton-y and does his Afton cosplay, he kind of loses himself into the role and kind of thinks he is Afton, which is why he's trying to escape. He also might be trying to escape because he wants the game to keep going. As in, the programming gets misaligned and basically is like, I need to make more Five Nights at Freddy's. I need to go into the real world and make more Five Nights at Freddy's. And that is what he does with Vanessa when he takes possesses her, basically. And so he needs her body to physically go do the stuff. And that's why we get the AR stuff and stuff, because he's trying to make more Five Nights at Freddy's, basically. He is trying to make the story continue, basically. He is basically saying, I need to go do this and this and this. And there's a Freddy's out there now, the Pizzaplex. Okay, I'll go there. And so he and Vanessa go there. He gets into the system and what I think is happening here is that he overtakes what was the storyteller. So basically what I think is that Glitchtrap is basically the Vanny to the Mimic One's programming. So the Mimic One is the Vanessa in this situation, the Glitchtrap is the Vanny. Two sides of the same coins. So I think Glitchtrap is possessing the Mimic One virus, and basically is making the animatronics eerie and creepy and scary, and that's why they're killing people and doing bad stuff. And yeah. And that is basically what's going on. So that's why the animatronics are trying to kill you. That's why they're evil-ish in Security Breach. But once we get rid of Glitchtrap in Help Wanted 2 via the help of Jeremy, aka Cassie's dad, um, and we get rid of Glitchtrap at the end of that game, he gets smushed, he dies. That's basically confirmed now by J-Top in the John FNAF interview that we got a while ago. Um, I take that very, very much to heart. I think Glitchtrap after Help Wanted 2 is dead, and that explains Ruin very well. Because in Ruin, what we see is basically a Pizzaplex was out Glitchtrap. The Glitchtrap saga goes from Help Wanted to Help Wanted 2. And Security Breach is right in the middle, and AR is right in the middle. So I think after Help Wanted 2, there was no more Glitchtrap. The Afton imagery is done. We're done with Aftons, pretty much. We are now fully engulfed into the Mimic saga. And we'll see that in Secret of the Mimic, and then in the next game after that. And Ruin. Ruin is kind of the prologue to the Mimic saga. And we see that in Ruin, because in Ruin, we don't see Glitchtrap at all. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, but what about Helpy? Well, that's a very good question. What is Helpy? I don't think Helpy is Glitchtrap. I think okay, well, let me take a step back. I think Helpy is Glitchtrap in Help Wanted 2, but I don't think Helpy is Glitchtrap in Ruin. If you notice Helpy in Ruin, he glitches out and we see the yellow eyes. But I think it's important that it's yellow eyes. Or orange eyes, I guess. That is obviously a signature of the Mimic, not Glitchtrap. Glitchtrap has the purple eyes. Mimic has the orange eyes. So what I'm saying is I think that basically after the events of Ruin, after the events of Help Wanted 2, basically what happens is Jeremy and Vanessa get rid of Glitchtrap. Jeremy's dead already. Rip to the real one. And all the Pizzaplex systems are wiped of him. So now when we get to Ruin, there is no Glitchtrap. He is gone. And now you might be asking again, what about Helpy? What about the other animatronics? Why are they still trying to kill us? I think that is the Mimic 1 programming. Now back to what it kind of was in the Storyteller. I think Helpy, what Helpy is in the mask, is basically a hyped up version of the Helpy program that would normally be in the mask. The blue eye Helpy that we see. The yellow eye Helpy, I think, is just his programming being elevated and his personality being pushed up and put to an extreme by the Mimic 1 programming, like we see the other animatronics do in the Storyteller. And I think that is what is happening in Ruin as well. Freddy's a little weird because he has no head, and I don't really know what's going on with him. But with like Chica and Monty and Roxy, I think we're just seeing the amped up. I think what we're seeing in Ruin basically is the animatronics being put into a really bad situation with these heightened personality. We see that Monty is still super aggressive, but now he's even more because his programming is probably messed up because he's half a body now. Like he doesn't have his lower half. Same thing with Chica. I mean, Chica doesn't really attack us that much. She does every once in a while, but she's a lot more chill. Like when she falls over and we put her voice box back in, she could have killed us there. She doesn't. Same thing at the beginning. She doesn't try to kill us. I don't think the animatronics are malicious. I think they're just kind of lashing out because they're scared. Because the whole point of this Steel Wool era is AI becoming sentient. We see that with Karinmaku Freddy throughout the main game, and we see that with the Mimic throughout the short stories and stuff. It's about AI getting sentient, and so I think that's what we're seeing here. These animatronics are scaled and lashing out because they've been abandoned in this broken, destroyed building. They're not acting like their normal selves. They're basically lashing out like scared children. And their personalities are pushed to 11 by the Mimic 1 programming. So now they're even more childish. That's why Chica is eating garbage again still, and she looks like that, but she's not like trying to kill us. That's why Monty is super aggressive. He's aggressive because of his personality that was given to him by the Mimic 1, but also because it's even more now. The safety guards are off, and I think there's no better way to prove that than Roxy. Because if you look at Roxy, I think she's just pissed off at Gregory for taking her eyes. She thinks we're Gregory until Cassie screams. And I think what that is I think that's just Roxy's heightened personality going crazy. She's upset. She lost her eyes. She can't see. She's scared alone in the dark. and can't get out. Mess, and it's terrible and stuff. But when Cassie screams, she goes, "Oh, it's you, Cassie. Oh." And she kind of snaps out of it. That's not something the Glitchtrap 1 virus would do. Glitchtrap Roxy would kill Cassie with no second thought. We see that in Escape the Pizza Plot, the interactive novel that came out a couple months ago. And I think we also see that, I think also that interactive novel, what that does for us, it also shows us how Roxy acts when the virus is kind of a low level. It's not fully there yet. It's not taken over fully. Um, and the way Roxy acts to Cassie in that is very similar to how she acts in Ruin. And I think that's really interesting to point out. So that's basically my theory, is that the Mimic One and the Glitchtrap virus are two separate things mushed together like Vanny and Vanessa. And when the Glitchtrap virus is killed in Hell 1 and 2, we are just left with the Mimic virus. And so we are in the Mimic era of FNAF now fully, with Ruin as a prologue, Secret of the Mimic being a big chunk of it, and obviously Security Breach 2 or whatever it's called after Secret of the Mimic will be maybe the third act kind of end of it all. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I have some other notes, but I don't think they're too important. And I think I've rambled long enough. This video is a fucking mess. I hope you guys enjoyed it anyway. If I do another video like this, I will definitely make more bullet point notes so that we can go in a straight line and not get all jumbled and stuff. So this is probably my last video until Secret of the Mimic comes out. I might do a trailer reaction if we get a second trailer, but I don't know. So yeah, until next time, please like and subscribe. I will be making a massive remake of my Crash Course on FNAF timeline video that I made. I'm going to be making a remake version of that, which lines up a little better with my feelings on the franchise now and how I think the timeline goes. It will be very movie-like, cinematic. Obviously, it won't be like a John FNAF type cinematic where it actually has like fucking video and stuff like that, but I will make it like a cool audio thing. With visuals in there, kind of like the first one. And it will be a one big video, and it will cover everything. It will cover everything I think is in the game timeline. So Tales and Frights, I'm not sure yet, but we'll talk about the week before. And I will be doing the Steel War era as well, which I didn't do in that first video. So we'll be doing from FNAF Secret of the Mimic to FNAF Ruin, pretty much, and everything in between, all the Scott's games and stuff. So thank you guys again for watching. As I said before, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.